Hello and welcome. Today I want to share a story with you. It's one of those stories that feels like it's been carried on the wind, etched into the dusty landscapes of the American West. It's not a story about grand shootouts or legendary outlaws, but about something far more powerful. The quiet resilience of the human spirit and the unexpected kindness that can bloom in the harshest places. It's a story about a woman named Sarah McAllister, and it begins under the merciless Arizona sun in a place called Cedar Ridge. Imagine, if you will, a heat so intense it makes the very air shimmer. The dust on the main street is packed down hard, and the ramshackle buildings look like they're one dry gust away from collapsing. This is the kind of day that drives sensible people indoors, a day that feels punishing. And into this furnace, a stagecoach from Tucson groans to a halt. When the doors open, a woman stumbles out, and the few people braving the heat immediately turn to stare. Not because she's a breathtaking beauty, though you get the sense that under the grime and the bruises she might have been, but because of her condition. Her dress, once fine, is torn and stained. Her face and arms are a canvas of purple and black. She moves with a painful, guarded slowness that speaks of broken ribs and a broken spirit. This is Sarah McAllister. In her hand, she clutches a small bag, her knuckles white. She's come all the way from Pennsylvania, a world away from this harsh frontier. Have you ever put all your hope into a single promise? Pinned your entire future on the words of a stranger? That's what Sarah did. She answered an advertisement for a mail-order bride. The man, William Thornton, had painted a picture in his letters, a life of prosperity, respectability, a fine house, and a gentle heart. It was a lifeline for a woman trying to escape a life that no longer fit her. But the reality was a nightmare. Thornton was no successful merchant. He was a drunk, a gambler, a man who had lost everything months ago. When Sarah arrived, he flew into a rage, claiming she wasn't as pretty as her photograph. The beating was swift and brutal. And then he threw her on the stagecoach to Cedar Ridge with 12 cents to her name and a chilling ultimatum. Get gone before he changed his mind about letting her live. So she stands there, alone, injured, and hundreds of miles from anything familiar. Her hope has turned to ash in her mouth. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. From the shadows of a porch, a voice slithers out. 3 men emerge, their eyes glinting with a predatory interest that makes your stomach turn. They look her over like livestock at an auction. Damaged goods, one of them sneers. They see her pain not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity. She whispers, "I don't want any trouble." But they close in, the smell of whiskey thick in the air. They make her a business proposition. In a town like this, a woman alone, well, there are ways to earn your keep. And in that moment, Sarah is facing a choice that is no choice at all. She has survived a monster's fists only to be thrown to the wolves.
But then, a new voice cuts through the tension, deep, steady as bedrock. The lady said she don't want trouble. The 3 men turn and we see him for the first time. He's a rancher. You can tell by the sun-weathered lines on his face and the worn-down heels of his boots. He isn't flashy or imposing in a threatening way. He's just solid. broad-shouldered and lean, a man shaped by hard work. His name is Joe Coleman. His eyes, gray as a winter sky, meet Sarah's. There's no pity in 'em and no desire, just a calm, quiet assessment. It's like he reads her whole story in her bruises and torn dress without needing a single word. The thugs try to dismiss him. They say she's fair game, with no husband or family to claim her. But Joe doesn't back down. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't draw his gun, though his hand rests near it, ready. Instead, he does something far more effective. He reminds them who they are. He speaks their names, Tom, Pete. He reminds Tom of his wife and daughters at home. He reminds Pete of his mother who takes in washing. He holds up a mirror to them in the middle of that dusty street and asks if this is the kind of men they really want to be. And it works. Shamed and uncomfortable, they slouch away. Joe then turns to Sarah. The standoff is over, but her ordeal isn't. She's still alone in a hostile town. "You're coming with me," he says. The same words the other men might have used, but the meaning, the entire universe of intention, is different. It's not a demand, it's an offer, a lifeline. Is she just trading one form of captivity for another? It's a question she must be asking herself, but something in this man's quiet dignity feels different. He offers her a place to heal, medical supplies, a bed to rest in, nothing more unless she wants it to be. In a world that had just shown her its ugliest face, filled with liars and predators, this man's plain, direct speech feels like the only solid ground she stood on in weeks. And so she takes a step, then another, and he walks beside her, keeping a respectful distance toward his wagon and an unknown future. As they leave Cedar Ridge behind, Sarah knows it's more than just a ride. In a town where everyone else saw damaged goods, this quiet rancher saw a human being in need of help. And sometimes, just being seen is the first step towards healing. The journey to Joe's ranch is long and mostly silent, but it's a silence that isn't empty. It's a space for Sarah to finally breathe. When they arrive, the ranch isn't some grand estate like Thornton had promised. It's simple, solid, and honest. An adobe house, a sturdy barn, fences in good repair. Everything about it speaks of hard work and care. It's a place built to endure. Inside, the house is clean and functional, clearly the home of a man who has lived alone for a long time. Joe's kindness continues to be practical and understated. He heats water for her to wash, points out a salve for her bruises, and shows her to a small, clean bedroom. "It's yours as long as you need it," he says, his back to her.
This is what I find so powerful about their story. His kindness isn't loud. It's not performative. It's in the quiet actions, giving her privacy, providing for her needs without ever making her feel like a burden. In a world where men had only taken from her, this simple, unconditional giving is completely foreign. She has to ask, "Why are you doing this?" He doesn't answer right away. He turns from the stove, his gray eyes steady, and tells her a story. Not about a person, but about a horse he once found on the range, beaten and starved, left for a slow death. He brought her home, not knowing if she'd survive. It took months of patient work to help her heal, to teach her to trust again. That horse, he says, is now the best cow horse he's ever had. And then he delivers the line that explains everything. I'm not comparing you to a horse, he says, a ghost of a smile on his face. I'm comparing myself to the kind of man who can't walk past suffering without trying to ease it. It wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. One soul who understood brokenness, offering what little comfort he could to another. Later, she asks about the women's clothes she found in a trunk, the bedroom that seemed to be waiting for someone. And Joe, his voice rough with old grief, tells her about Margaret, the mail-order bride he was supposed to marry 8 years ago. A woman who seemed hopeful and real in her letters, who wanted a garden and a family. But she never made it. A fever took her on the trail somewhere in Kansas. He just never had the heart to clear out her things. And suddenly, it all makes sense. His solitude wasn't just a preference, it was shaped by loss. His quiet preparedness wasn't just a habit, it was the armor of a man who knew how quickly things could be taken away. He wasn't saving Sarah. He was sharing his sanctuary. He was offering one broken soul what another had been denied, a safe place to land. The days that follow fall into a gentle rhythm. Sarah begins to heal, not just from her physical wounds, but from the inside out. At first, she just rests, letting the quiet of the ranch seep into her bones. But soon, the need to be useful, to contribute, takes hold. It's a powerful human need, isn't it? The desire not to be a burden, but to be part of something. She starts with small things, tied in the already neat house, mending his clothes with tiny, careful stitches. She finds a neglected vegetable garden behind the house and coaxes it back to life. These aren't chores he's given her. They are acts of reclaiming her own agency, of pouring her care into a place that is cared for her. Joe notices everything, of course. He's a man who pays attention. He never says much, but his appreciation shows in small ways. An extra piece of pie left out for her, a jar of wildflowers on the table. He accepts her contributions, understanding her need to give back, to feel useful.
Their evenings are spent in quiet companionship. The sparse conversations grow longer, more meaningful. She tells them about her life back east, the suffocating expectations, and the desperate hope that drove her west. He listens. He doesn't judge. He just understands. He tells her, believing people ain't a fault. The world would be a sorrier place if nobody trusted nobody. He understood that the real evil wasn't her misplaced trust, but Thornton's cruel deception. For Sarah, this is a revelation. She'd spent her life being judged as a disobedient daughter, as a desperate woman, as a fallen victim. But here, on this remote ranch, she is just Sarah, the woman who makes good biscuits, the woman who brought the garden back, the woman who can almost make the solemn rancher smile. She realizes that this place, this quiet space she shares with this quiet man, has become the first true home she's ever known. And Joe is the first true friend she's ever had. It's a terrifying thought, because friends can be lost, but it's also a deeply comforting one. They are two people who had learned to be alone and were now cautiously, carefully learning to be less so. 2 months pass like this in a bubble of healing and quiet growth, but you can't hide from the world forever. The ranch is running low on supplies. They have to go back to town, back to Cedar Ridge. Joe offers to go alone. He knows what that place represents for her. But something has changed in Sarah. The fear is still there, a cold knot in her stomach, but it's now joined by a stronger feeling, defiance. She will not be a victim hiding from her past. I need some things, she says, her voice steady. She's not just going for flour and thread. She's going to reclaim a piece of herself that was stolen in that very street. The ride back to town is different. This time she sits tall in the wagon, wearing one of Margaret's dresses that she has altered to fit. She's no longer the broken creature who stumbled off the stagecoach. The bruises have faded, replaced by a quiet strength in her eyes. When they roll down Main Street, the stairs are still there, but this time they're met with Sarah's lifted chin. When she walks into the general store beside Joe, the proprietor's wife, Mrs. Garrett, is visibly stunned. She sees not the damaged goods from 2 months ago, but a composed, respectable woman standing shoulder to shoulder with Joe Coleman. That moment in the store is the real climax of this story. There's no shouting, no confrontation. The victory is silent. It's in the way Sarah moves through the aisles, calmly selecting her items. It's in the dawning respect in Mrs. Garrett's eyes. It's in the protective, steady presence of Joe by her side. She has faced the place of her deepest trauma and has not been broken by it. She has walked back into the fire and discovered she is fireproof. And that right there is the real story. It's a love story, yes, but not the kind we see in fairy tales. It's not about grand declarations or whirlwind romance. It's about something deeper and far more real. It's about two lonely, wounded people who found each other in the wilderness and, through quiet acts of respect and compassion, created a safe space for each other to heal. Their future is unwritten. We don't know if their friendship will blossom into love or if their quiet companionship will continue just as it is. But what we do know is that Sarah McAllister, who arrived in Cedar Ridge as a victim, is leaving it as a survivor. She has found more than just a sanctuary. She has found her own strength. And she has found that even after the most devastating storms, with a little bit of unexpected kindness, something new and beautiful can begin to grow. It's a quiet story, but it's one that stays with you. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism aren't loud and dramatic, but are as simple and as profound as seeing another person's pain and saying, "You're coming with me. You're safe here." Thank you for listening.